Hey, welcome to the Remotely Speaking Podcast. We're your hosts, Paul and Chastity Hawkins. So excited to have you guys today. On our podcast, we have none other than Al Shattuck, really good friend of mine, business owner of so many businesses, and just a stellar dude. We're excited to have you today, Al. Thanks for joining.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. So Al, if for any audience members that don't know you already, I'm gonna give you a little intro. And I wrote it down because I wouldn't do it service if I tried to say it verbally. I'd probably be like, he's cool. and that would be it. And I'm going to say some pretty cool, nice things about you because you don't do it for yourself. I feel like it's warranted that I say these things. So I'm just gonna read this. Al Shattuck, husband, father of four, combat vet, owner of multiple businesses, author of multiple books, and he's also a great friend of mine. So prior to his professional career, Al served in the Marine Corps, where he served as an infantry rifleman who fought in Fallujah, Iraq in 2006, 2007, which is an interesting time. Came home to a daughter he hadn't met, a manual labor job, and a half-finished college degree with zero experience in the business world. He took that and he finished his degree, found insurance in 2009, and since then he's gone on to open multiple agencies and receive recognition for accomplishing the industry's highest achievements, all while experiencing massive growth each year, which is all true. This increase in revenue and profitability took place while simultaneously decreasing the number of hours worked in the businesses, freeing up his time to allow him to take on multiple other business ventures. There's one I met Al. In 2017, Al launched Shattuck Property Group and grew his real estate portfolio to the point of creating complete financial freedom for his family within 6 years. And his business performance company, Complacency Kills Consulting, started in 2020, includes coaching, consulting, professional speaking on the topics of business, sales, recruiting, and leadership. And from there, he authored his first book, Complacency Kills, fantastic book if you haven't read it, in 2021. And later that year, this is when I met Al, he launched Autopilot Recruiting. I love this story. He grew Autopilot Recruiting to over $3 million within 9 months and to an 8-figure business within the first 4 years. Just phenomenal. And in 2022, he released his second book, Small Business, Big Recruiting, making him the industry expert who literally wrote the book on recruiting, which he did. It's a book about recruiting. And currently, Al is preparing for the launch of his third book, Complacency Kills Insurance Sales, which is coming out very soon this year. One more mention here, Alex's mission has been and continues to be to help small business owners decrease their hours while increasing their profits by killing complacency in their lives and businesses. He's created hundreds of jobs, helps thousands of people along the way in the pursuit of accomplishing this mission. He also, by the way, deadlifts 475. And you should probably pump those numbers up, man. Like one day, 500 in your future.
Are you impressed with yourself hearing all that, Al? That's pretty impressive.
I don't know if anybody else likes listening to my bio. I certainly don't like listening to my bio, but I appreciate
know you don't.
that warm introduction.
Al, like straight up, you're an awesome dude, man. When I read that, I'm pretty impressed. Like it's awesome, and I know it's like it's a 20-year overnight success.
For sure.
What you talk to us about, man? Tell us about all the things. Tell me the good news.
Good news. Man, where do I start? Where do you want me to start? Maybe rewind time a little bit?
Yeah, maybe. How about this? Why don't we let's talk about Autopilot Recruiting because that's where we met. I think that's a good place to start.
Sure. Well, the recruiting company wasn't something I intentionally launched. I mean, it's become my biggest business. We look at just like the number of people we serve, number of employees, number of just dollars and cents come into the business. But it was fairly on accident. The reason Autopilot Recruiting came to be a thing was because of the success that I was having in my insurance agencies. And that success that I was having as an insurance agent, it led to a lot of phone conversations with my peers. Over the years, agents would call and say, "Hey, what are you doing in Michigan that's making your level of success what it is?" And it always came back to team. And from there, it came down to recruiting. I made the realization early on in my career that recruiting needed to be an everyday thing forever, not just when you have to do it when you're desperate activity. And so I made a point to recruit every day. And because of that, I always had the right size team and the right people in the seats within those teams. And that's what led to the success is the people, but ultimately the recruiting efforts that got me the people. And I would say this to agents, and that led to speaking opportunities. So I started traveling the country, sharing best practices, just talking about recruiting, sharing what I do and why, and how they should do it, why they should do it. And I kept getting feedback from my agent peers around the country saying like, hey, that's great, sounds great, but I don't really want to do it. I would really outsource it. Do you have any business you could refer to me to? And I started researching it to see, is there anybody that does what I do that we could like outsource this to or refer them to? And I couldn't find anything. I found headhunters and like other organizations and businesses that would do some type of recruiting, group Zoom stuff, high price point type of recruiting services. And most business owners I found just don't want to pay the big bucks to find talent. And oftentimes can't because of small businesses. And so I wanted to create what wasn't out there. And I started to look for ways to do what I've done for myself for other agents, and brought on my first agent in September of 21. And I recruited for that agent personally for a little bit before bringing on my first recruiter, and then brought on another recruiter and more businesses, another recruiter and more businesses. And now we're serving about 2,000 businesses across the country, and we have a team of about 150 that are all remote. And so that's how this thing came to be. Really, it was the success from one industry that spilled into the creation of this next Wednesday.
Dude, that's fantastic. I'm super proud and excited for you, man, and your team. Like I got to witness the growth that you had, when we first met, and I just love how many people you're impacting in a positive way, right? It literally makes me smile, right? Anytime I can say good things about Al Shattuck, I do.
So how many recruiters do you have?
We have approximately 150 on our team.
And they're all remote, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So any tips for managing 150 remote workers?
that's a great question.
Yeah.
Because I assume they're everywhere, man. Are they just like all over the place? Yeah.
I do have some tips. And that's before I go into the tips of leading large teams, whether it be remote or not. I also want to give Paul a great shout out for his part of this journey too. When he mentioned us meeting, this was 2 or 3 years ago now. I ran into your mom, his mother-in-law, in Birmingham, Alabama, at an event we both were participating in, and as maybe your listeners don't know, I know you all know, but she's the founder and former CEO of Agency Resource Solutions, which is a company that has a massive remote team. And I had the opportunity to meet with her and pick her brain because I was growing at a rate that I couldn't keep up with when it came to the technology. I was drowning, and I was sharing my struggles with everything. And she's like, "You gotta be much time off." He took everything that you're struggling with and fixed it for us. I think he could do that for you. And I was like, just sign me up, And so just thing, super fortunate to have that happen. And then, with what he did when he came in and modified or completely overhauled really our website processes, streamlined everything, and even worked to train my team to take this on in the future, completely set us up for the next phase of growth and allowed us to sustain that rate and grow that to where we are today. So without Paul in the mix, we would be doing something, but it wouldn't be exactly where we're at today. I'm very thankful for that, which is one of the reasons why when I got the text yesterday, like, "Hey, do you want to do the podcast tomorrow?" It's like, yes, I'll just do it tomorrow. But I have nothing else to do tomorrow. But yes. Now that I've embarrassed Paul, I will. And he has plenty of faults.
Yeah, a lot. There's a few, like 2. That's it.
Well, he definitely can't. He can't deadlift or bench press what you do. So there's that.
I was like,
Shade from his own wife.
oh yeah, that's pretty shady. I was like, are these real numbers? Are these real? This can't be real.
So for those who don't know, when Paul yesterday asked Al for a few accolades, Al sent all his lift numbers, all his bench press, and his deadlift.
Yeah. And I was actually actually legitimately impressed. I was like, what the crap?
We were impressed.
The important stuff,
Well done. That's how I measure human beings. Like, how much you deadlift? Yeah. I don't like you now.
Well, I'll answer the question, the good question around leading big teams, and I get this often, and I'll bring this back to my experience in Lions, and Paul, I know you can relate to this too, but we don't lead large groups of Marines with a single Marine typically, right? Like when I was in my final stretch during my time in the Marine Corps, I was a sergeant, I was a squad leader, and I had 12 Marines underneath me, but I didn't have to necessarily work directly with all 12 at all times. And so if I had something I needed to roll out to the squad or communicate to them, I didn't have to find all 12 and say, hey, here's the mission, here's the mission, here's the mission. I can deal with my 3 fire team leaders and explain what's going on to them, and then they would go to their 3 or 4 fire team members and explain what's going on to them. And so when you look at it from even a bigger perspective, so platoon level, there's squad leaders, platoon commanders, and platoon sergeants, and you got company level people and battalion level people and beyond, right? And so that's how you can have hundreds of thousands, or in some cases millions, led by some few people at the top, but really there's multiple layers. Decentralized command is what they call it. And I've done that same thing within my insurance agencies, but also in my recruiting business. And so within that 150, we have team leaders. We call them team leaders, and they lead between 5 and 6 recruiters. I think if you get above that 6 mark, you're starting to sacrifice relationships and efficiencies. From there, we have squad leaders. We call them squad leaders, and they lead 5 to 6 different team leaders. From there, we have directors. And then there's a couple C-level folks, including myself. So I don't have to report out to 150 people. I respond, or I communicate on a daily, or most days, to probably 3 or 4 that I would say directly report to me, 3 or 4. So if you're a small business owner or agent that are leading 3 or 4 people on your team, that's kind of the workload I have too when it comes to leadership, right? And then from there, they lead their 3 or 4 or 5, and they lead their 3 or 4 or 5. And so you don't have to be overwhelmed with the concept or that idea of growing and scaling a business, as long as you're doing it in a way that has leadership at multiple levels. So everybody's getting what they need out of you and their direct reports.
Really good advice.
No, fantastic. Yeah. So what I just heard is not only scaling the business, but scaling your leadership structure to go along with it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And yourself. I mean, your time, it's the whole reason our business exists, is business owners can't do it all, right? You've got to hand some over. You have to delegate. And so delegating to your leadership structure, I love that. It sounds oddly familiar. Paul has implemented something very similar in our company. Who knew it was from the military that you learned that? I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. You can only manage so many people. It's usually about 4 to 6, and then you tap out. And so,
yeah.
And that's where we're with our company. Like at some point before we have this recording of 14 internal employees, but once we got to about 10, it's like the current structure is not going to, we knew it wasn't right. In order for us to get to the next level of growth, had to restructure it to have team leads. And then Tassie and I now have basically like 2 or 3 direct reports. Same thing. Because I know, just like you, man, like if you grow to thousands of customers and a team that's 100 plus, like you can't do it by yourself.
No, not well.
Don't try. I don't recommend it. Yeah. Don't recommend it. That's cool.
Yeah. Do you have any other methods of keeping kind of a sense of community for all of your remote workers or your teams? Whether it be in-person meetings or get-togethers or incentives or fun stuff that you do. Any tips in that area?
Yeah, we do a few things. We have, so I'll focus solely on autopilot recruiting right now, because that's the completely remote thing. And we communicate daily on Slack. Slack's an app you can download and use within your organization. And for those that are familiar, I would describe it as like a group chat times 1,000 that's organized. So. And that's how it started. We had like a handful of recruiters in a big group chat. And as you know, something important could be dropped into the group chat, then it gets buried by a whole bunch of other either important comments or cat photos. You never really know what you're going to get in those things. So this is designed in a way where you can have different channels within the Slack group. And so you can have a channel for cats. And so if someone's to post a picture of their cat, they could drop it in the cat channel. We actually do have a channel for like fur babies, I think is the name of the channel they create. But you can have other things that are unique to your business. You can have like, best practices or, sales successes or questions for leadership or whatever. And you can, have different channels to drop certain comments or questions into. So when you're looking at your app, you can decide where you want to focus your time. And if you don't care about like cats and stuff, you don't have to click on that channel to see who's dropping photos of their cats or kids or whatever else they're into. But you might want to focus on the stuff that you do care about. And so it's a better way to communicate. I think it's great for non-virtual teams or non-remote employees as well, but we find it tremendous for that. Shares success stories. It gives you a chance to comment on people's comments and heart things and flex emojis or whatever to kind of hype stuff up. And so there's this constant communication, and which helps with the culture. We also have Zoom meetings. We have like team Zoom meetings and leadership Zoom meetings, but there's also every other week we do an all hands on deck Zoom meeting where we come together, and I usually will try to lead every other one.
Okay.
And then, we'll announce like recruiter of the month, we'll announce promotions. And if we have any promotions or incentives or, goals that we're focusing on, we'll share updates on those things. And then again, when I'm not leading them, we have others out of the leadership team that are leading those calls. And so we do have and we always encourage cameras being on. And so we can see what's going on. And there's been times where that's been a struggle, but I've really kind of dug in on that and made that a pretty darn close to mandatory thing. And to me, it's about respect. I think that if you have your camera off on a Zoom meeting, it'd be like us hanging out in person and me putting a bag over my head for 45 minutes. That's the way I communicate it. That's just rude and it looks dumb. So I think if you're speaking to someone virtually and you have the technology, outside of like, you just something happened, you dyed your hair and it turned out really bad and you don't want to be on camera today, like so be it. But hopefully that's not
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good advice. So do
Christmas parties. We do like a virtual Christmas party on Zoom where there's like, the team organizes it. They have different things they do. And, so there's ways you can get creative with the remote team to still have that culture and fun and get to know people. And those that are local to me, like we do have a handful of recruiters on my team that are in Michigan. And so a couple times a year, we might meet somewhere for coffee for those that are able and willing to show up. But most of my recruiters I've never met, and many of those I probably never will meet in person.
That's pretty cool.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. We do some similar things. Like I love hearing that you're doing that basically twice a month. Meeting with the entire team. We just finished another episode about doing just that, like how to manage remote team members effectively and make them feel like you're in the office, right? There's that art to it. It's really cool, man, that you're doing that. Do you find that really helps out the buy-in from the remote team members? Like they don't feel like they're on an island?
Yeah, for sure. Because when you have 150 people watching a Slack channel and someone asks a question, like you have so many people that have the answer, the knowledge is usually in the room, even if it's remote. And so people do, I feel supported. And again, they share personal things too, personal successes. And so maybe they paid off their student loans or something, want to share it. People can, celebrate that stuff with them. And so, yeah, it definitely brings people together. I think that many are friends beyond the work that we do, and friends that have never met in person. So in a perfect world, yeah, we're all able to hug and shake hands. But man, with the technology we have these days, there's so much that can be accomplished remotely.
Dude, yeah. So on that point, it's like I already know the answer to this question because we think the same, but I'm gonna ask it anyway for the audience. Have you found that while it could be cool to have everyone in person, you're able to scale your autopilot recruiting business massively because you can go recruit the recruiters all over the country. You're not just set for one location, right? And that's allowed you to scale immensely.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just math, I'm not getting it. I do understand like basic math, and that just tells me if you can, pull from millions and millions versus, tens of thousands, the math is in your favor. then, there's certain businesses where that's not an option. But if your business does have the option for virtual or remote workers, um, when you're, say, if I have, again, one of my offices is in a town of like 15,000, Owasso, Michigan. If I'm solely focusing on Owasso, Michigan and 15,000, there's great people and I find them. But man, if I can look at like the millions across the country and accomplish the same mission with those individuals, but just have that, whatever that caliber, to me, you can be much more selective with the quality of the individual that you pursue if you open it up to remote work across the country. And it puts you in a position of strength as an employer. It puts you in a position to never settle. When you think about, your team, usually there's someone in last place. If you have 2 people, there's someone in second place. You have 150, there's someone that's 150th place. And if you have a big pool of candidates to pull from, you don't have to settle and keep that 150th person or that number 2 person on your team if they're not profitable for the business and not valuable for you and the customers that you serve. So, when an agent or a business owner tells me as a recruiter, like, hey, I'm good, I'm fully staffed, like I don't need to recruit anymore. It's like, so you're telling me, like, if you have 5 people, you have the 5 best people in the entire country. Like, there's no one else you can go. You can't upgrade that 5th seat to somebody significantly better. And most of the time, and if they are batting 1,000 and all 5 are making them money or a pleasure to have on their team, great. We're not looking for reasons just to get rid of people. But if you have 5 people making you money, go hire a 6th person. They're going to make you more money. And so that's when you go from just replacing that bottom seat or upgrading that bottom seat to actually adding an additional seat, whether it's in person or virtual.
Yeah, I like that. Well, you actually coach, I believe, on something similar in your scale and profit seminars. You go around the country and you teach business owners and agents and um, how to scale their businesses and be profitable. And I assume a lot of that has to do with delegation and outsourcing, right? Can you share with us areas you've delegated or outsourced for either of your companies? I mean, I know people hire you when they want to outsource, and people hire us when they would like to outsource. So, what are areas that you recommend delegating and outsourcing?
Um, yeah, everything that you can delegate and outsource, and I'll explain more about that in a second. Why I say that. One thing you mentioned was the scaling and profiting and growing your team. And one point I want to make before I get into the outsourcing is to do that, you have to really pay attention to what I said about upgrading and then adding. And what I mean by that is if you have 5 people on your team and number 5 is it's not making you money or losing you money, you don't want to add a 6th. That's how you scale without profit. Right? If you want to scale with profit, you have to improve or upgrade that last seat. So make that person better to where they are profitable, or upgrade that person to somebody that is going to make you money. And once you do have the team that's all making you money, that's when you add another person. But you never want to add people to make up for what other people are not doing, because that's going to be really, really costly. Even if it does lead to success on paper financially, it's going to be devastating. But going back to your specific question on outsourcing, everything, everything that you can. I think it's kind of a fun, almost like a fun thing to challenge yourself with. I encourage business owners to look at it. Start with by looking at like what you wake up dreading doing. So Monday rolls around. If you're like, dang it, it's Monday. Why do you say that? Like, what are the 2, 3, or 4 things that are on your mind that you just makes you want to stay in bed? Try to delegate that stuff out first. It's going to make your life way better. And then, from there, look at like the dollars and cents behind it. Obviously, if you can pay $20 an hour to somebody to offload activities A, B, C, and D, and then you can go out and do other activities that make you $200 an hour or $2,000 an hour. It makes all the sense in the world to continuously add people to your team to take things off your plate, to free up time to where you can do things that will make you more money, make you more happy, or just give you some time back to relax for a minute if you want to relax for a minute. So, if done right, all of those decisions should be an investment, not an expense, because you should find ways to make more money by getting your time back. And there's certain things that I enjoy doing. Like, one thing that I do a lot of, and Paul, I probably told you, like, I love mowing my lawn. Like, I really enjoy it. To me, it's like I like working out, I like mowing my lawn. Both of those things, I kind of tune the world out and focus on those things. And so I get a kick out of that. And someone would say, well, you should just outsource that because you can afford to outsource that. But it gives me peace of mind, and it kind of helps me during that day. So you want to be careful of not outsource things you love to do that make you better in other areas of your life and business. Right now, it doesn't mean you keep everything that you love to do. Like I used to love meeting with policyholders and selling insurance, but that's not the best use of my time in most cases these days. Yeah, so it is okay to outsource things you love as long as it's not going to hinder your ability to be successful elsewhere. If I outsource lawn mowing, like that would probably negatively impact you more than positively. That's just me.
I feel you in a lot.
Yeah.
I love cutting the lawn. No, that's awesome, dude. You and I have talked about buying back our time a lot of times. And if I rewind 2 years, like for the world to know, Al's always been a bit of a mentor to me when we first met. And he's helped coach me along the way and push me, in particular in this area, right? And there's some parts of buy back your time I was completely bought in. But the area that it took me learning it, not the hard way, just learning it, was there are things that I like and do well that I still shouldn't do, right? And I was trapped in the mindset of, yeah, but I can just do it. And that's not the right answer. I need to focus on the big ticket items that really drive the growth of the business, just like I was talking about, and not on the minutiae. Even though I like some of those technical things, I shouldn't do those. And once that light bulb went on, Chastity and I started to delegate and outsource lots of things that were on our plate, and it massively freed up our time. And it didn't take long. I think that was the surprising thing for me, Al, like speaking personally, is like once we made the decision to have our own executive assistant to start off with, and then a few other things, it was only like 2 months, 3 months, and all of a sudden the time that we had increased dramatically, right? And so now we're able to do things like this, think long term for the business. It's pretty massive.
Yep.
Do you agree?
I agree. I remember when Paul first met you, Al, he came to me, he said, I have no idea how that dude has time for all of this. But I think as we've gotten to know you, you delegate and you outsource. You have a fabulous office manager / assistant who we've gotten to know and love. You have a fantastic team. We've both at various times, for whatever reason, gotten to meet or even participate in some of your all team meetings, and seeing how you've set it up is really impressive. So I think, in the beginning, we had no idea how you did it all, but now we understand that you have used all of these tools that we preach about, right? And we have kind of modeled after some of the lessons Paul learned from you, which is delegate and put solid people in place and structure your team to where we don't have to handle every single thing every single day. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, buy back your time. I mean, there's a book by Dan Martell. For anyone out there who hasn't read it, you should go read it. And it really outlines exactly what to do that Al and I were just talking about. And Al, for me, man, that's been like the biggest game changer for us personally, for the business, and things that we help educate our own clients and future clients all the time of, dude, buying back your time and outsourcing these parts of your business is crucial to you actually growing, right? And if you don't do some of those things, you're just not going to. Like, you're going to hit a ceiling at some point if you're still doing administrative tasks, for example, right? Or doing your own accounting.
All right, Al, so we both have businesses, right? We've talked a lot about your remote team. People who have been listening to the podcast have heard about our remote team. And so do you have any tips for other business owners who are maybe looking into building their own remote teams? Any words of wisdom to share?
A few things come to mind. If the business has been in existence for a while without any remote team members, but they've had physical, like in office or in whatever physical location team members, I would take a hard look at your current onboarding process, because sometimes the fear of hiring remote is, I don't know how to onboard employees remotely. But oftentimes what I find is that the same individual that makes that claim is they also don't have a great process to onboard them in the office or in the location they're physically at. And it's just, there's a comfort level of having someone in your physical location where you could say, hey, go job shadow Johnny, and go sit there for 8 hours, right? So there's some like peace of mind in just thinking you're accomplishing something because they're physically with other people. But when you really peel back the layers of that process, there's not much of. And so I would say first things first is if you have a physical location, make sure your onboarding is really buttoned up and locked in a point where it's just like smooth and it's successful and it's proven. Because if you don't have that, it's not going to get easier when you have someone remotely. But I find if you do have that in your physical location, you can just copy and paste that same exact thing for those remotely because the technology is there. As long as you're not like using your hands to build stuff that, you know, you got to physically do together or whatever. For what most that are probably listening to this podcast need is just a good process that can be duplicated. And so fine tune your current process and then ask yourself the question, what do I have to do differently remotely, if anything? And again, most likely it's just limited. But so that's the first thing, making sure you have the onboarding process like really, really good. And then looking at the people that you want to hire. I mentioned like you have millions of people to choose from. That's a yes, but it's not for everybody. You know, and no jobs for everybody. But just being remote in general is not for everybody. And so you want to do your due diligence with people. If it's important to you that they have uninterrupted time, so they can be on the phone with customers or do different things where they can't have like World War III going on in the background. That needs to be communicated, and they have to explain to you how they're going to deliver on that. So like I have 4 kids, I have a dog, like I have, you know, but like if I'm doing a podcast recording, like I'm making sure they understand, like, hey, that's not vacuum above me while we're recording this thing today, right? You can't guarantee success, but like again, there's things you can do. Do they have working internet? Right? Like that's something that if they need the internet, it's a big deal. Like, do they have the ability to function with technology and evolve with the changes in technology? Do they not just like, are they not just cool with working remotely, but is it preferred? And that's something I think we forget about sometimes, because if they would rather be somewhere around people, which there are those individuals, it's just a matter of time before they find that opportunity and jump ship. But then there's a whole another percentage of the population that really, really need or want to be remote. And if you can find that, that's someone that's probably not going to leave when there's a higher paying opportunity because they physically don't want to go in. They can't or whatever because of their lifestyle. So let's think about this. Is there anything else? You mentioned that. There probably is. But Paul, what am I missing?
Only add a thought that that I actually applied to our company in late September, October, is what I call preparing for disaster. Like why remote employees can allow you to have what I call continuous operations of your business, even when things go awry. So, for example, Hurricane Helene came in through our town in Greenville, South Carolina in late September of 2024 and took us out. We were without power for 11 days, didn't have internet for like 45. And it was the most eye-opening experience I had from a running a business standpoint, that if all of my team members were here, it would have been bad stuff, right? Because nobody would have been able to access the internet, handle the workload, handle nothing, right? Even cell phones weren't working great. It was bad. But because we have a distributed team, we only had 4 of us that were impacted by the hurricane. Chastity, me, and we have 2 others in Georgia. The rest were in Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan who were not impacted by the hurricane. And they helped pick up the slack and kept running the business for us while we were trying to pick up the pieces. And so I always recommend for other owners, like, yeah, hey, look, it might be an out-of-state person who might be in a different time zone. And there's some administrative stuff that comes with that. However, if you run into an issue where your office gets flooded, right, or the power's out and you have natural disasters, you at least have one other person out there who's able to still work while you're trying to pick up those pieces.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a good thought about that, but yeah, you're diversifying your talent pool in a way that's keeping you almost immune completely of natural disasters. You know, so they seem to be more frequent. So I love that. One thing that came back to mind when you were talking was remote experience. I wouldn't say like mandatory or necessary, but it certainly helps. I think if they have a proven track record of having working internet and having uninterrupted time and being able to function even socially without physical people near them, I've lost people that just needed that in-person experience, so having some background in working remotely for someone else, I think is a point added. Again, not a disqualifier if they don't have that.
No, it's really good points, man. Like, I think the full circle on this one is a couple things. One, we literally just made an episode about how to be a great remote worker and how it's not for everyone, right? And you literally just hit on all the same stuff we just talked about. Couple things is like you do have sets of people that just they're not really good for remote work. Some who are perfect for it, and then a lot of people are kind of middle. And the way you retain that talent in the middle are the things that you just talked about earlier in the episode, which is having that frequent Zoom call with a video on for everyone, right? So you have that connection with the team, frequently talking with them, the team leads talking with them with Slack, just having that interaction. They don't feel on an island. And we found in our experience last, 20 years for other businesses, and of course with the current ones, when you do that, the people in the middle will stay because they feel part of something. They have that human connection. They're not on an island. The extreme introverts are totally cool. They don't really care, right? But for the rest of the middle, that's usually how we get it done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is the perfect opportunity for a shameless plug.
Do it.
So if you're building a remote team, you should outsource maybe finding those people, right? So Al runs a whole business on recruiting. You can outsource your recruiting and pretend that they're part of your remote team, helping you source your hiring. If you're looking for specific things, you can hire our companies, for executive assistants or whatever kind of remote help you're looking for the specific things that we offer.
Mm.
I know Al he outsourced a couple of his remote workers for his agencies to Agency Resource Solutions, and we help him in that area. So I think when you're building remote teams, go to the experts, the people who know where to find them, know what they're looking for, know how to help you vet. If you don't have a clue how to find out if someone is going to be a great fit, outsource that and pull in the experts to help you as a way to help build that remote team. Don't you agree, Al?
Yeah, 1,000%. I want to make a point as to why I've outsourced a couple of my positions to your company, and because I think that there's some that will hesitate to outsource certain things because they again you personally can do it, or like, hey, I have a process for that in my office, and I can recruit for that position, and I can have them do it at a high level or as high or close to it in their mind or whatever, maybe in their mind a higher level, but for me, it wasn't that I was lacking the processes that I've now outsourced to your team. It wasn't that I can't find the right people to do the job. I'm a pretty good recruiter, right? And so you remove those two things. Like, why did I do it? For me, it's just there. It's two less positions that I'll ever have to recruit and train and onboard again. So there's the peace of mind of just saying like, yeah, I could do that. I could do that maybe as good, whatever, but I don't have to. Why not pay a little bit more, or not even maybe, or pay, maybe even a little bit less, and just never have to worry about those two positions ever again. Like if and when I lose someone in those two positions, I don't have to go replace them. You guys replace them. When they get replaced, I don't have to train them. Y'all train. And so it's just a plug and play opportunity for me to remove some workload from the rest of my team and myself. So it works. And as far as the assistant the business you guys have, as I talked through, like, what are the things that keep you up at night? What are the things that ruin your day, or maybe just hijack your day? If you really dive into those things, most of those things can be removed by having an assistant. I think that everybody's next hire that's a business owner that doesn't already have one is an assistant, both an executive assistant and a personal assistant, or a combination within one. Because as soon as you do that, and again, the fear is, well, I can't afford that, and it's a new business owner, I just started. No, as soon as you do that, you're going to free up time. You're going to go make more money with your skill sets that make you the most money. So that has to be on everybody's list of things to do, is go find an assistant. And just so happens your company can provide that for them. And so if you don't have that already, that should be the first number you call is them. Second website you go to is autopilotrecruiting.com to take care of all of that.
I agree.
All the other things.
100%. Yes. I always said, like, you can handle all of your staffing needs between the two of us.
Yep.
Oh, always, all of them. I can't think of a single one that you can't do between the two of us.
I agree.
Al, man, I appreciate you talking through that. So let's talk about some final tips that you have from your time in the military, or your time as a business person for our audience.
Yeah, I'll give you one from each. How about that? I'll start with business first. I don't think this is going to come as a surprise, but I think team is everything. If someone hates what they do, if they're miserable within their business, it can be directly brought back to team. Either not enough of them or the wrong ones, the wrong people in the wrong seats, or a combination of those things. And again, I think the only fix is consistent and forever recruiting. Another shameless plug brought about recruiting. That's my biggest business lesson is people, 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 people. They will make or break your business. And if your business is broken, life isn't too good either. And so I can make the case that it will make or break your life in many cases. So as far as military goes, my experiences in the Marine Corps, there's no shortage of experiences that I could point to. And I've talked about decentralized command and structuring your business, but just one thing that I think that I do well with is, I guess I'll point it to delegation, which we talked about. But when I say delegating, like truly believing in someone's ability to do the job, I think that in the military we really had to have faith in our people, work to get them to where we felt confident in them, but then actually give them something that's really important or dangerous or whatever, and they had to go use it or do it. I think that probably positioned me as a business owner to be that way with my people here at home, where I will hand off something and have faith in their ability to do it. And not, I'll lead and manage, but not micromanage. Those are different things. And if you hire or outsource something, but then you want to be involved in everything along the way, it totally defeats the whole purpose of getting your time back, because you don't have time back. You're still doing that same job. You're just bothering somebody else that you're also paying to do the same thing. And so delegation, I think, was something I took from the Marine Corps. And then the other thing I think is just dealing with adversity. Now, as a business owner, everybody here listening that's in that space can relate to the fact that it doesn't always go according to plan. But Paul, you overseas, me overseas, we've had really bad days, and seen adversity, levels of adversity that most haven't, won't. And that's not always a good thing, but I think when it comes to perspective, it makes us more maybe immune to dealing with adversity here at home, or handling adversity here at home. Yeah, that's usually, I think, a really good thing, because we don't get too low or too high in any one situation. I found where that can backfire is if you don't have empathy for people going through things that aren't as bad as what we went through. And so we got to be careful with that. And you're laughing because I know that your wife has reminded you of that probably over the years.
You're aggressively nodding.
This happened to us. It's like, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't have problems here at home too. So you gotta be
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's no, it's very true. I'm gonna flag it real quick with that, because we literally were just talking about this probably this morning. Of for me, it's never that bad. Whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. Whatever I'm like, it's really not that bad, because my perspective is from Iraq, just like yours. Is I'm like, well, that was pretty bad, and this is just not that bad. But I forget that if you haven't experienced it, then you don't have the same level of perspective of bad, right? And so it does cause me to not be empathetic enough all the time, because I'm like, what's wrong? What's the problem, right? This isn't a problem. Just go fix it.
Yeah. He literally says, well, no one's shooting at me today, so this isn't that bad.
Literally, no one's trying to kill me. It's a good day. I have running water. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I feel you. But yes, it's great advice, though. It was probably advice to me, actually.
Yeah. Empathy's great.
Empathy is a good thing to have.
Thanks, Al, for the nugget of knowledge for Paul.
Who knew? Awesome. All right, man. Hey, one final thing for the podcast today. Why don't you tell us about your third book that you're about to wrap up?
Yeah. Third book. So my first book is called Complacency Kills. It's written for all business owners, and it's for business owners specifically. My second book is Small Business, Big Recruiting, and that's, again, for small business owners. The third book is a rewrite of my first book. It's called Complacency Kills Insurance Sales. So it's specifically written for insurance sales men and women, right? And so specifically team members that sell multiple different product lines. And I did this because there is such a need in that niche of market Oftentimes I found my first book was being read by team members and employees of insurance agents, but probably a third of it really wasn't written for them. And so I removed about a third or so, and then added more back in uniquely to them and rewrote everything else that speaks their language even more so. So it's not a complete new book, but I would say like 60 rehashing the same stuff, but in a different way, 40% new content, new material. And I'm super excited about this thing. I think it's going to come out mid-May, which I believe is about when this is going to be. So it'll be mid to late May. You should be able to pick this up on Amazon, along with any of my other books. Or if you go to autopilotrecruiting.com, we have a tab on there where you can shop around, and there's all my books located in autopilotrecruiting.com too. So we hope to have both of those accessible as far as locations to find the book mid to late May. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't already, be sure to buy all those books. I've read the first two; they're fantastic. So get yourself a copy. Go to their website or Amazon and get it. Awesome, man. Any final comments today?
No, thank you so much, Al. I know you have a million things happening. I appreciate you last minute hopping on here with us.
Heck yeah.
This has been good. Happy to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for listening in. As always, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe and like our channel on YouTube, Amazon, and Spotify. Have a watch, have a listen, so you can get all the latest updates.
And don't forget, follow us on social media. We have Remotely Speaking Podcast on Instagram, and follow along with all of our businesses. We have Agency Resource Solutions, AR Sidekicks, and then now we have Autopilot Recruiting on here as well. If you're in Michigan and you need insurance, Alex Shattuck has 3 offices, I believe, right, Al, to help you with all of your insurance needs. So check us out across the board. Thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next time.
See you guys next time.